Welcome to my second video outlining my SAAS project. In today's video, I will discuss how I went from a single sheet of paper to the beginnings of a multi-tenant SAAS platform. Engineering up, I'm sure we've all looked at an old manual process and thought there's got to be a better way. I certainly thought so. For several years, as I've collected my packages from the concierge, having to look through a clipboard full of paper, trying to find the entries for my flat. Initially, when I were approached to write it, software for building, I passed. I didn't see any value in it or what I could gain skills-wise from such a system. But when I were out of work for 6 months last year, I revisited the idea. So how do I get from this sheet of paper to sketching a design for a multi-tenant SaaS product, you may ask? Listen close, I shall tell you. So I've lived in my building for 10 years, and through talking to staff and the directors over the years, I've learned a little how some of it all works. I know that there is a management company that looks after the residential part of the building, the manager of facilities, of the communal areas, fire alarm testing, repairs, etc. The company managing the building has changed over the years, so I knew that the system would have to be able to cater for a particular building or site, changing management companies. I also know that these companies manage commercial as well as residential spaces, and they operate throughout the country and potentially internationally. So I started to see opportunity from that sheet of paper that we use to manage deliveries. I started to see more than just a delivery management system, but a whole suite of concierge functions that would benefit this type of business. I started to see opportunity from the sheet of paper that we use to manage deliveries. Sorry, repeating myself. I started to see that a tenant can manage multiple sites and multiple locations, and how I could leverage this to build out a suite of functions that I hopefully will be able to monetize. So now I have my sketch of the multi-tenancy I was aiming for. A starting USP that I could use for my minimum viable product, the package management. I would need to be able to add users and assign roles and permissions to them. An initial user of the system would be the concierge staff, but they would need to be added to a site, given roles and permissions. They also need to be able to be assigned to multiple sites, as the management company may rotate them to other sites when needed. Roles for the managers will need to be created so that they can manage the staff at any given site they have permission to access. So again, the idea is starting to further flesh itself out. The main requirement for me in all this would be that the system would scale, that I could expand into Europe and beyond. Pardon me. So if I were going to build something, I wanted to really build something. So start small, dream big. Multi-tenant system would allow me to manage one digital estate while selling it to multiple customers and scaling that digital estate as the user base grows. I also wanted to design it in such a way that if I have the money to pay for teams of developers, I could give each team an aspect of the system and have them build it. The front end I wanted to also be modular, which is why I settled on Angular micro front ends. I will need tenant management tools, accounting, so that invoices can be generated and paid for. So I didn't want to build a monolith and then tear it apart down the line. The idea would be to deliver this functionality within its own microsite, loading into the shell application where permissions allow. I decided to build out with microservice APIs with an eye on a proper cloud-first strategy. So not only a scalable architecture that can scale out and up, but scalable development experience as well. So I felt like I had a plan. Did some initial research to see if the market was worthwhile, and only saw one or two potential competitors, and they were selling on-premise solutions. As the product will go into testing in my building, my minimum viable product will need to be able to log packages, send notification emails, have a basic permission and role set for the concierges who will be the initial users. I also want to have printable QR codes that can be affixed to the package so that they can be scanned when the user collects, or if a concierge finds a misplaced package and they can easily identify it. Along with some basic reporting, it will be enough to get into the hands of users, fix any bugs, and just get off paper in my building. I can then quickly iterate on the rest of the product with regular release cadences and an agile feedback loop, with the aim of increasing the tenant user base when that feature set is developed. So, I think a quick recap of the features I already have in place will be useful, and we can see how far away from the minimum viable product I currently am. In terms of the minimum viable product, we are talking one tenant with one site. This allows me to get the product into use, and I can shape it from there. I can build out the tenant features and add further features into the product. Then when the time comes to expand the user base, I will revisit my minimum viable product and pivot accordingly so I can get those features to market and expand the platform. As you can see, I have a login form. There is some basic validation in play. You will notice that the login button is currently disabled. It only enables once both these fields have been completed. If I enter the wrong password, I will get a message informing me that the username or password is incorrect. And you'll see the first feature I need is completed. Users are able to log into my system. As mentioned, I'll need to assign roles. I will need to assign roles to users in the system. For my minimum viable product, up to now in my development, I haven't had the need to create permissions within the roles. I would expect that in the future this will become a requirement. For now, though, I can assign a role to a user. What I do have to decide is whether I need a front end for this, or whether I do this manually using SQL scripts. As much as I would like to have the front end screens in place to manage this and make my life easier, for the minimum viable product, I will likely manually create the records to tie a user to their role. Don't expect to have too many users. The main feature that I need to ship as part of my minimum viable product, and as you can see, I've developed a lot of this functionality already, is being able to log packages. So as I enter the microsite, I'm presented with 4 cards in the UI. We have log package, view package history, card showing the overdue packages that need collecting, and finally we have a breakdown of the overdue packages. So as I enter into the log packages screen, I am presented with 2 drop downs. One for the residents, and one for the number of packages are received. So after selecting the residents and the number of packages are received, we are presented with the package details that we need to complete. So if I select 2 packages, I'm presented with 2 package details sections. Select 3, shown 3. As you can see, it'll render the appropriate amount of package detail forms that we need to complete. You'll also notice that the button is disabled, and this will remain disabled until all the relevant sections are completed. And when I log the packages, I'm shown a toast message. Yeah. And I can add again for another residence. So when it comes to reporting, we have the overdue and the overdue breakdown cards that report some basic information to the user. They can click on the overdue amount within the card, and they'll be shown the view of the outstanding items for that chosen period. We can also view the package history, which is the same screen, either at the site or for a specific residence. You see the one I've logged today. By default, the list view will show you all outstanding packages for collection. I can limit, this to a residence. I can also show the collected packages in chronological order, with the latest entry first. I can also click on an entry and it will show a little breakdown of the concierge that took the delivery, who signed for it, who delivered it, and how big the package was. So I'd like the system to send out emails to residents that they have packages awaiting collection. I do need to spec out how I want this to work. I don't want the system to email a resident as soon as a concierge logs a package. As I take many deliveries, so ideally these need to be sent once the deliveries have all been added, and the concierge can deal with the demand of the residents coming to collect packages. Ideally this will be some sort of automated process that runs on a defined schedule, and when a package is logged, I need to be able to generate a QR code that can be printed and fixed to package. I also want the QR code to be used in the email that is sent to a resident so that they can present that to the concierge and retrieve the packages. This needs to be specced out. I could go live without it and build it in at a later date, as and then I'll need users to be able to sign up. Ideally, this will be driven by the tenant, either with invite emails or by having the ability to create users and assign roles. This is something I will need eventually, but I can get by for now by creating the records manually but via SQL. I have also not yet integrated two-factor authentication into my project. I need to think about how I want this to work and the mechanisms I will use to achieve this goal. Text messages or emails, for instance. A usable user interface ideally is what I'd have. UI is okay. There are things I need to sort before I can consider minimum viable product ready. I use the basic core UI template to get me going, but I need to fix the UI so it shows the icon sets. The menu can be collapsed. It needs to show icons. When I'm logged in, need the menu to hide elements that don't need to be shown. I think I can get away with desktop and tablet views in my initial minimum viable product. Ideally, I'd have some sort of caching in place so that I don't keep hammering my database. However, I could have this later, as it's still small now and will be in use in only one site. These concerns aren't as pressing as otherwise they could be, although it would be something I need to keep an eye on as the platform starts to get some use, and this should be something that I aim to release in the immediate release cycles after the first release. When it comes to cross-cutting concerns, I need to have some suitable logging in place to capture and handle the exceptions at runtime and to log useful information and telemetry. This data will help shape my platform as I grow. I do not think I can release without having suitable logging in place. So, most in it is there, but there's still work to do. And that's the beauty of building the SaaS platform. It's an ongoing process, constantly evolving and improving. We've gone from a paper-based system to a functional SaaS product with a solid foundation. Now it's about refining it, testing it, and getting into the hands of real users. In the next video, we'll take a deeper look at the architecture patterns behind all of this. Why did I choose onion architecture and domain-driven design? How do these patterns help me keep my system scalable and maintainable? And that's what we'll be exploring next. So, if you're finding this journey interesting and want to follow along as I build this SaaS product from the ground up, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video.